Hello, New St. Francis educators. I am going to give you a really quick introduction. Maybe it's not so quick, but I'm going to give you an overview of Schoology so that you can start building your courses this summer if that is something that you would like to do. So I'm in Schoology here. You will not have your fall courses in here yet. They won't show up until August. So the way to get started now is to create a course, and then later on you can actually copy all of the materials very easily into your new courses. So click on courses, go to my courses, and then create a course, blue button over here. I'm just going to call mine AP World History, which is what I teach, or one of the things I teach. You need to fill in anything with an asterisk. So we'll just kind of run through and fill this all in. And then for grading periods, you're going to need to scroll down to one that's in black because that means it's current and you'll be able to get it easily. Right now, it happens to be July of 2021. So I'm going to pick summer 21. You'll see it has the longest term there, so it won't disappear until after the fall school year starts. So go ahead and create it. By the way, when a course disappears, it never actually disappears. It gets archived. So I can just show you that really quickly. Current courses are here, archived, so nothing ever disappears. You can always get back to it, which is really, really nice. But let's go back to this class. Okay, so the default here is the materials page. And let me actually show you for a moment, I should have done this a moment ago, what my materials page looks like from one semester, just so you can get an idea of ultimately where you're heading. I actually have more documents up top than I usually like to have. We had all the Zoom stuff from remote learning, but that's all up there. I like to organize my materials into folders and color code them. And for folder names, as we move through units, because that's how my class works, I choose to include the chapter because we are working with chapters. That is not the case for every class, I recognize. I use the topic or the chapter name, and I also put the dates that we address it so that students have multiple means of figuring out where to go to find a material. And then I also have at the top, these are things that sort of transcend time and they can look at any point in time. Within a folder, which you can view in a couple of ways, either by dropping down the little caret here or by clicking on it, you'll see I have all kinds of materials. You can put folders within folders, and that is something that I have done in the past. Feedback from students that I've received has been they don't love, at least in my class, too many subfolders because it's more clicking. So that's why you'll see that I have a pretty long list rather than subfolders. But depending on my class, I maybe treat it a little bit differently depending on my needs. You'll also see in here, just to give you a view, that on the computer, on a laptop, the icons will indicate the type of document or material that it is. So this is a Google Doc. This is Google Slides. This is a link on the web. This right here indicates an assignment, a Schoology assignment. And then these little conversation bubbles indicates that I have included a discussion board. And then another item you see down here, these sort of little rulers, this is a Turnitin Dropbox for an essay that students wrote. Now, on the iPad, which is where students will, by and large, do their work, they won't see these exact same icons, so it's not as obvious to them what some things are. Namely, I think it was Google Docs. The googly stuff just shows up as a link, but otherwise it is clear to them. Something else you'll notice on here is that the folders do have text on them. So that's something, I'm not sure what we are going to have everyone do this year, if we're going to continue to recommend this or not. But this past year, we did say we want your objectives on the folders. So that's why you'll see those there. Okay, so let's get back to the class that I created. And let's just mimic some of these. Actually, let me show you a little bit more before we dive in. So materials we're going to come back to, and we're going to dive into that. Updates is another page where you can post information for students, and then they just sort of the newest will go to the top of the page. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So you can kind of keep adding things up here. Some teachers have used this for posting their daily agenda or other means of communicating with students. Because teachers don't use this across the board, I think you will need to educate your students on where to look if you're planning on using the updates. But this is an option for you. I would probably wait until, I would actually definitively wait until the school year to post these, because you can't copy them to a new class. You will be able to copy materials to all of your fall courses, but just know that that exists. Let's just kind of keep popping down so you see what's here. This is the gradebook. It will populate. The best thing is that when you create assignments in Schoology, it will automatically create columns in here, which is neat. Next is grade setup, which I will walk you through right now, although you will also get it again at the start of the school year. So you may find it useful to set up your grading categories right now. Actually, as I say this, I'm not sure. Yeah, let's just add a couple of grading categories for the moment. We may or may not be ready for it, but let's just say that I'm going to have a formative assessment category. I'm going to keep this really simple. We're going to call it formative assessment. We're going to create it. I'm going to add another one called summative and create, and you can have as many as you want. And then I do weight my categories. So if you are doing that, you don't, then you will click on that. And I'm going to give my formative a weight of 5 and summative 95. No matter what, you have to have categories to create assignments, and you'll see why when I show you later. We're not going to touch the grading period. You will actually have to set all these things up again in the fall, but this is a little preview. You will also set this to SFHS scale, and then we'll just go ahead and save those changes. Okay, so let's actually get back to materials, which is the most critical thing. So let's say you want to start with a folder. You'll just go ahead and put your folder in there. You can color code it. You can put in your objectives, as you see fit. You can have fun with, this is a full WYSIWYG editor, so you can do bold and whatnot. I will say this, copying and pasting text from another source does mess, the formatting doesn't transfer over. So I do copy things over, but I then also have to reformat them in here for it to work. So once you add something, you can clear the formatting on it if you've copied it in, and then you can start to rebuild it in here for it to look nice. I would keep your folders published for now, so you can no need to unpublish them. All right, so here's our folder, and then let's say that we need to start building in it. So let's start with, let's say you have we'll just start at the top. If you've got an assignment, this is an assignment automatically goes to the calendar if you put in a due date, and it automatically goes to the grade book if you choose a category that you built in that grade setup. You can choose to have something ungraded, in which case it won't go to the grade, it won't go into the grade book. So that's up to you, but it is nice to have both of those things automatically set. Okay, so let's I'm going to have the absolute worst assignment names ever. We'll just call this Chapter 1 assignment. Here, you will want to put some kind of instructions, right? Maybe it's, worksheets are terrible. This is not good teaching. I just don't like that term, worksheet. Maybe worksheets aren't bad, but I don't like the term. Anyway, so let's say I want to actually hot link this, like maybe it's a Google Doc. There are a number of different ways to attach materials here. One is I can hot link this if I want to pull it in from Google Drive. So you could do that with a Google Doc. You could do it with a PDF, as long as the sharing settings in Google Drive are set correctly so that anyone with the link can view, or anyone at SFHS with the link can view, you can drop it in there. I am not going to pull up my Google Drive right now to save time, so I'm just going to put in the New York Times. You can also, instead of hot linking materials, if you like, you can pull them in here. So if you have a Microsoft Word file or a PDF, which I'm realizing right now in my new computer, do I actually, oh, I do have one actually. Here's one. You can attach like a PDF and it will show up at the bottom. You can do the same with Office files. If you are adding a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, anything googly, you will need to use the link option. Again, I'm just going to use the New York Times, so I'm not doing that. But yeah, you will do it like that. Okay, and you can play with all other kinds of things. You can insert YouTube videos, you can insert images, you can use math. There's the different ways of putting math information in here, so, or using math text, I should say. Math type over here and so on. So moving down, you will see Google Drive assignments here. This is something you will use only if you are seeking to give your students a personalized copy of a Google Doc or Google Sheet or Google Slide or slide deck. This replicates Google Classroom, and it allows what Google Classroom does in making a copy, and it allows you to attach one item per assignment. So just one item here. I'll just choose this one. And that actually changes the way the assignment's set up, and it means that students will do all their work in here, and you will be able to view it. So if you don't want to use that, you should not click on it. You can still attach Google Docs up here and have students make their own copies or just reference them. All right, so you have to pick a grading category. Oh, wait, did I already do all that? And you can leave everything else. One thing to know about here is that the default is for submissions to Schoology to be enabled. So that's great if you want students to submit a PDF. If you are saying, hey, just read pages 1 to 10, or you say, hey, fill out this document and bring it in hard copy to class, you'll want to disable it. And then you'll go ahead and create it. So that's an assignment. If you want to edit it, anything can be edited from here. Next thing is there's test, quiz, and assessment. These are two features that overlap. It's kind of silly actually, that they allow you to create a quiz within Schoology. So my recommendation is use the assessment feature because this is Schoology's replacement for test quiz. They just still haven't dropped test quiz, but this is where they're pouring a lot of resources. So use add assessment. So again, we can call this, chapter 1 quiz or whatever. Give it a due date, give it some point value. Submissions, you can play with this later. If you're giving something, you can enable it for a certain amount of time, keep it disabled. You can password protect it. You can also do an ungraded quiz, or you can put it in another category. And then I should actually walk you through some things that you'll see on many of these materials as you go through here. Individually assign will allow you ultimately to individually assign something, which means you can give it to one student, you can give it to 5, whatever. You'll be able to type their names in and they'll populate when you have students in the class. So this is a useful thing when you have like test makeups, for example, and the students who are not assigned it will not actually see it in Schoology. Here, again, green dot always means published, and that's the default. If you ever wanted to make something not show up for students, you just unpublish it. And then this, we're going to just leave alone right now. Okay, so we're going to create it. And then within assessment, you'll be dropped then into the setup page. You can read through all the options. If you change any of them, you can save it. And then questions give you the different kinds of questions. So lots of different things here. And then you do have a chance to preview it. So that's something, this is pretty big, just letting you kind of know that it's there. No, I did unpublish that, didn't I? So I can just publish it if I want to from there. If you want to, the next thing here is add file links or external tools. You can use the file feature for attaching PDFs or again, Word files and just letting them live directly on the page like that. You can insert Google Docs or other URLs like YouTube videos, or clearly I keep just doing New York Times. You can insert those here. This little icon here shows that the default is for this to display within Schoology. If I do that, it's going to pop out into a new browser. One thing to know is that this is irrelevant on the iPad. So it always shows up in Schoology on the iPad for students. So we'll just go ahead and add that. And you'll see that's a link. And then an external tool is useful for one of two things. Most notably, if you are using Turnitin, like for essay collection, you can create a Turnitin box directly in Schoology. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this right now because there are 2 steps involved and you will have to redo them in any new course. But I'm just going to walk you through it really quickly. So you create it, you can grade it or not grade it. You can, put a due date on it, give it a category, and create it. And the cool thing here is with Turnitin, then you never are creating classes in Turnitin. You are just, it's all done through Schoology. And then this is the part that is why you'd wait till later. You actually have to go in here and reset the due date and the grade, and you have to click submit for it to actually take. But that's the quick rundown there. What else? Oh, discussion board. Kind of the same rules as with everything else. You'll keep seeing the same sort of icons. You can create a discussion board. The one thing I like to point out, you can grade it or not. One thing I like to point out is that the default is that students can see other students' responses before participating. I like to make them have to post before they see others. So just kind of do that, give some directions in there, we'll just create it. Okay, add a page allows you to create sort of like a web page within Schoology. I think some people use this. Actually, I know some people use this on our campus. So you can just open that and you get a WYSIWYG editor, which you see is what you get, where you can put all your materials on here if you like. A media album is a folder that students, not just you, but students can also contribute to, so they can put images and video in here. I am not aware of teachers on our campus using this, though some might without my knowing. And then the other things aren't really needed. So let's go back. I'm just going to show you, you'll see anything with a due date will show up on the right. You can also pop out the calendar. If you don't like the due dates, irrelevant in the summer, but just for the future, you can drag and drop them elsewhere. And one other thing to know is that you don't need to put your course name in an assignment, because when a student clicks on it, they will see what class it's for. The other thing that you'll eventually be able to do, I would not do this summer, is you can use the calendar for posting homework as well, or like in addition to the assignments. So for example, maybe you use the calendar for posting things that students are not going to submit. So like I put my reading on the calendar, and then I do assignments, have like documents and submissions and all. So go ahead and just do that. All right. I'm sure there could be many more questions, but that is definitely a long overview.